The skill interpreter is embedded in the Allegro PCB editor application. So each time you invoke the PCB editor, you automatically have access to a skill interpreter. There are several ways to access the skill interpreter inside of the PCB editor, but the easiest and most useful is to set the environment variable tell skill by entering the command set tell skill at the PCB editor command line. This will open a new window and give you access to the skill interpreter. Skill provides arithmetic operators, so you can enter arithmetic expressions in the skill interpreter, and it will return the value of the expression. For example, if you enter the expression 5.1 plus 7.2 in the skill interpreter, the value 12.3 is returned. Like many other interpretive programming languages, if both operands are integers, then the interpreter will perform integer arithmetic. For example, if you enter 7 divided by 2 at the skill interpreter, then 3 is returned rather than 3.5. Since both operands in the expression were integers, integer math was performed. If either operand had been a floating point number, then the result would be a floating point number. So 7.0 divided by 2 will result in the value 3.5. The skill interpreter also understands many suffixes for multipliers, so 5 uppercase m is the value 5 times 10 to the 6th and 3 lowercase m is the value 0.003. Skill follows the standard order of precedence rules as most other programming languages. So 20-9 divided by 3 times 2 raised to the third power will evaluate to -4. Here 2 is raised to the third power to return 8. Then 9 is divided by 3 and multiplied by the 2 raised to the third power or 8 to produce 24. Finally, the 24 was subtracted from 20 to produce the result of -4. As you would expect, the order of operation could be controlled using parentheses. So, while 2 plus 4 times 10 will return 42, with the multiplication taking precedence over the addition, we can use parentheses such as open parentheses, 2 plus 4, close parentheses, times 10 to force the addition to happen first to have the expression evaluated to 60. You do not need to declare variables in skill. They are created and can change type dynamically. The assignment operator, the equal sign, is used to assign a value to a variable, so the statement line count equals 1 will create a new variable line count, and assign a value of 1 to that variable. To return the value of a variable, you just enter the name of the variable. So if we enter line count at the skill interpreter, now the variable is evaluated and the integer 1 is returned. Skill defines the pre-increment, post-increment, pre-decrement and post-decrement operators as well. Line count plus plus evaluates line count and then increments its value. So 1 is returned, but line count now has a value of 2. The pre-increment operator plus plus line count will add 1 to line count and then return the new value. So 1 is added to the value of 2 and the result 3 is returned. The minus minus decrement operator works exactly the same way, decreasing values by 1 in both the post-decrement and the pre-decrement fashion. Skill can dynamically change the data type of a variable as well. Right now, the variable line count holds an integer value, and we can check the data type using the type function. So type, line count, returns the symbol fixed num. If we assign a new string value to the line count variable with the line count equals $five, we can see that now the type function indicates that the data type of the variable line count is a string. Skill is case sensitive. So keep in mind that the variable line count with capital C is different than the variable line count with a lowercase c. Notice that the variable line count with an uppercase c has a value of the string five, and the variable line count with a lowercase c has a value of the integer 714. The placement of extra white spaces in skill is unimportant in most places. For example, the arguments passed to a function can be separated by commas or single or multiple white spaces. However, it is important to note that an expression that starts with a function name must not have a space after the function name and before the first open parentheses, string open parentheses, then the string Dave and the string Palumbo closed parentheses will result in a syntax error as we see in the skill interpreter. In summary, the skill interpreter is embedded in the PCB editor application, and you can access the skill interpreter by setting the tell skill PCB editor environment variable.